Blog on a blog. Tomorrow's news today. Get to the truth. Listen, learn, live. Visit us at yadaya.com.
Yeah, that's a smile. Even brings a smile to the guys' faces. Yes, it's a beautiful, fun introduction to the vlog on the vlog. So thank you for all of you for participating in creating that. We're going to begin on Nakba. I was just fascinated to find on my feed, I don't know if it was Facebook or X, but it began, the word Nakba didn't always mean what you think it means. It was funny considering the family hour when we played Leia's Nakba song, and we got the response from the person who was directed at that there was no correlation between Arabic and Hebrew, which to say I'm a dunderhead and have zero intelligence, and that Nakba is a word that has only recently been created, and that's not true either. It was actually a very clever play on words by Leia, and that there is a Hebrew word that is vocalized, transliterated, and that's what when you see an English rendering of a Hebrew word using the English alphabet, that is called a transliteration. And in a transliteration, the spelling is actually irrelevant. What is relevant is the sound that those letters make. So a Q, for example, and a K make a very similar sound. So knowing that, she created a exceedingly clever presentation using Nakba, where there is a Hebrew Nakba with a Q, which speaks of a very destructive woman. And there is the Nakba that is so famous from the Muslims, where they talk about Israeli independence as this disaster. So it was really, really clever. And of course, the woman that leads the Mother Goddess cult is just mean-spirited and nasty, and clever is not part of her vocabulary. But I guess that's why they created the Mother Goddess cult out of the 8th Mizmor that mentions Chakma, which is wisdom, and they turned Chakma, wisdom, into their mother god. So we're not dealing with very bright people. But I did see this. I thought it was an interesting presentation. I want to just share some insights with our listeners because of the fact that the Nakba that is now presented almost ubiquitously among Muslims is just a horrid lie. What happened in 1948 is Israel was allowed to come back to their homeland. It wasn't the establishment of Israel. It was the return of Jews to Israel, although there had always been Jews in Israel. And what happened in 1948 is that the Arab League and Muslims universally asked the Muslims living, and there were no Palestinians, there were just Muslims. No, the Palestinian term was not being used by anybody but the British because they were just anti-Semitic a-holes. It's the term Palestine is an ethnic slur that was created by Hadrian when he was burning Jews alive for his giggles and then crucifying them by the hundreds of thousands. That is when we find the origination of Philistina of Syria. And it was just to torment the Jews all the more, to rename the place that he had, that Rome had conquered, named the province of Yehuda. And it had always been the province of Yehuda as part of Israel. And after the war in 133, he was the person who created the ethnic slur. And nobody paid any attention to it other than the Brits, who are just anti-Semitic and decided that they liked it because they hate Jews. And so in 1948, when Israel, Jews were allowed after the Holocaust to come back to Israel, the British were pretty much jerks. The only time the British actually made any sense was and I think it was in Haifa. Yeah, Haifa was the location where the Arab League and Muslims ordered all Muslims to leave Haifa and then every place else gradually throughout all of what would be Israel. Now,
Mhm.
the reason they were telling them to leave, so this great idea that they were, that the Jews came in as colonizers and took away their, nothing can be further
No.
from the truth. It was
Mhm.
the Arabs and the Muslims who ordered Muslims to leave. And so the reason they ordered them to leave was because they wanted to be able to exterminate Jews more readily. They
Mhm.
had no army, they had no weapons, they had nothing to defend themselves, and the Arabs surrounding them were exceedingly well armed. They outnumbered the Jews 100 to 1, and so the Muslims, big ego and everything, and having a religion that's based upon slaughtering people and genocide, they figured this will be easy work. We'll just get the Muslims out of the way. We'll plow right through them. You know, a week from now,
Mhm.
there will be no Jews and no Israel. We will have finished our deal. So they were telling them to leave so they could exterminate Jews more readily. At the same time, the Jews that were already in these communities and had been part of these communities for centuries told them, don't leave.
Mhm.
We'd rather have you stay. You can be part of our state going forward. You'll have
Mhm.
all equal rights, which is something that has never existed in any Islamic state. In an Islamic
Yeah.
state, Jews have no rights. They have dhimmi status. They are taxed to oblivion. They can't vote. They have literally no ability to own property, and they're treated like, well, the Muslim can spit on them, they can kick them, they can starve them, they can abuse them, they can kill them, and there's no repercussions at all on the Muslim, and the Jew can't even look at the Muslim in return.
Mhm.
That's the kind of apartheid that exists in those Islamic states. And so, and Israel said, we'll give you just the opposite. We'll make you full-time citizens of our country. You'll have all the same rights, and they did. Now, that
Mhm.
wasn't very smart because the Muslims have paid them back by terrorizing Jews ever since, but nonetheless, they did. And so it was this back and forth situation, and finally, it was the most evil man. And I keep on leaving him out of my top 10 most evil people of all time, who I will find great pleasure in judging, tormenting, and then condemning. The Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, he was the guy that went to Adolf Hitler and convinced Hitler that exiling Jews after robbing them was not a good plan, that they should all be exterminated, and that's precisely what was done. Excuse me while I remove the Wookiee. Okay, so that's what we have. He was the final voice that says, no, you must leave so that they can slaughter Jews.
Mhm.
And so this article begins by saying that wasn't the original name, what the original word Nakba meant. And it's true. Arabic uses the Hebrew alphabet. It uses the Hebrew lexicon. Quran itself is a Hebrew word from kara, meaning to read and recite.
Mhm.
It's a Hebrew. And in fact, when you're doing what I have done, which is to translate the entire Quran, you realize that it is overwhelmingly bastardized a version of Hebrew. So Nakba, pronounced the same way, but with a Q, is a derogatory term. It isn't totally slanderous, but it's a derogatory term for woman. Ish
Mhm.
is the primary Hebrew word for woman. When Nakba is being used, it's, well, there's other meanings because of the verbal root. And actually, Nakba is from the verb nakab, which is written the same way. It just doesn't have the ending that makes it
Mhm.
would make turns a noun into something that's feminine. And that root means to curse, to blasphemy, to perforate, and to pick off.
Mhm.
So you're a prick if you are a nakba. You are a
Mhm.
curse. You're trying to perforate that which has value, to destroy it. And then naka, which would be the closest to nakba as with the K, means to slaughter, to damage, and destroy. So knowing these connections and knowing the popularity of Nakba the world over because of Muslims screaming it ignorantly, of course, and immorally, she created the song where she accused this mother goddess leader of being Nakba. It was very, very clever. But to know the truth, you have to know history and language. And Leah doesn't take the time to explain all of that, expecting the audience either to miss it entirely or to do the work to get it. And it's very much like the way I'm translating now Isaiah 10. And it's the same way that Isaiah works. He writes it in such a way that he knows 99.9999999% of people are just going to miss it and have no clue what he said or why he even bothered to say it. And that 1 in a billion is going to actually look underneath each word that he has strewn in the path and figure out what they actually mean and where they lead. And he says, if you don't, what does he care? And if you do, then you were meant to know it. So she takes the same approach.
Yeah, we have a 4-minute music video, right? We're not going to make a 13-minute director's cut explaining the music video for you. You either get it or you don't. Otherwise, just shut up and enjoy the pretty pictures. I mean, because it's
you should be pretty clued in when somebody is being called Nakba and it's being used by 2 billion people to condemn Jews for the very things that Muslims have done. You should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Life extensions exist for those who listen and learn. And unless you're willing to listen and learn, then you're never going to know. And you can't be an effective contributor until you come to understand. You need to comprehend what God wants to achieve. And to do that, it takes a lot of work. I was communicating with a guy that was very generous early on when I was doing Prophet of Doom, now Goddamn Religion. And he booked me on a lot of radio shows, some television shows. And I was unlike any guest that any of these hosts had ever interviewed, and most of them said, would you come back tomorrow? Would you come, the 7-minute segment became an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. And then will you come back tomorrow? How about next week? What if we have you as a regular guest? And so the shows that he booked me on typically got parlayed into many, 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 many shows. And so I ended up doing, 5,000, 10,000 shows, depending on all the things that you did. And then ended up having my own show called Shattering Myths. And now we parlayed that into the Yada Yada Radio, and then have now doing the Yahweh blog. And so this fellow and I've been corresponding the last, over the weekend. And he, I feel a sense of debt to him because he did come through at a time when it was very helpful to create an awareness of Prophet of Doom. Now, it also helped him too because I was the most credible person, the most highly sought guest on his cadre of guests, so it drew more attention to his business as well. Anyway, we became good friends. He started reading. He then bailed out when I proved that Ezekiel was false, that Job was false, that Jonah was false, that they don't pass Yahweh's test. And he said, that's just, can't go there. And I said, okay, well, see you later. He reemerged not too long ago over Leah's songs. Speaking of Leah's songs. Okay. His view is that Leah's songs deserve major promotion. They should be, they would be, if they were played on the radio, they'd be top hits, that she would be an exceedingly well-known, popular music producer if her songs were promoted. She says that, of all the songs that he's ever been associated with, says nobody writes songs that at the level that she is writing them. Even Rich, who spent a lot of time in the music industry.
She's got the ear.
Yeah, says Matt. She really has.
They don't sound like contemporary Christian songs like a lot of people's do.
Yeah, it says it's unlike anything that has been, it has a message on God, and yet they're completely unreligious. So he started writing me based upon that. And, and I didn't bite. I think he wanted me to be a client. And I said, no, I have no interest in being promoted again. And I realized that most people who are part of the covenant now heard me on a radio show back in the day. And for me to say now I have no interest in being promoted, it says that I have no interest in us attracting additional covenant members. And that's true. That's surprising, but we even had that conversation before the show began. I have no interest in attracting additional covenant members.
Go look what's out there now and who's prominent on any kind of broadcast. It's 10 times worse than it was just 10 years ago.
Yeah. So I realized that the radio and television shows that I were part of, they don't exist anymore. They just don't. Talk radio has been decimated, and the few that have survived because they do influencer bits on X and on Facebook, and that the kind of shows that get the most attention are raging anti-Semites and they're conspiracy theorists, and it's you've got Tucker Carlson, who is now a conspiracy theorist, admits he's demon possessed, pretends that he is a Christian, bribed by Muslims, and is a raging anti-Semite. That's what prevails. You got Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, Joe Rogan had a conspiracy show where 100% of what he did was based upon what other people had to say, where he just, okay, you talk now. And he just had a whole slew of idiotic guests on. And yet he's millions of followers. So there is no way now to do what we did. So you might as well just say, well, it can't be done. And the message that we have to deliver is anti-Christian, anti-Islamic, it's anti-Marxist, it's anti-MAGA, it's anti-conspiratorialists, it's anti-Semites, and so we're anti-racist. So you have no following in any social media platform. That means you say that all the people that are popular, you disagree with sharply. So you can't use any method to build an audience in that regard. But the biggest issue is that we end up in where my friend was, where he wrote back after having finally got the talking books to work. Couldn't get it done on his phone. I did it on my phone. It's not that difficult. In fact, it was so fascinating on my phone. I listened to an hour yesterday. It was just so amazing having the phone talk to you and turn the page and highlighting this section. It worked so beautifully on the phone, the talking books and the page turners. But anyway, he got home, he got it to work, and he says, I'm sorry, I don't have 10 hours to listen to this. You haven't listed any dates yet, so I'm done. I said, well, it's no problem, because 10 hours wouldn't have gotten you anywhere. In fact, at 1,000 hours, which is 3 hours a night, 7 days a week, for a year, you're at least in a position where you're building a foundation where you can understand. But that's not the end of it. The moment you think that you're done learning and you're done growing and that you can just move on to something else is the moment you become useless. And you can't, in less than 1,000 hours of invested time studying, put yourself in a position where you can make an intelligent contribution to what God wants. Now you're constantly, because you're kind of the go-to person on what is it that I can do to make a contribution. And most of the people who say, I want to do something, but I don't know what to do. Can you tell me what I can do? And your first response should be, no, it's not my job to tell you what you should do. You've got all these books you can read that tells you what you ought to know and how you ought to respond. If you can't figure out something that you should do from there, then it's not my job to try to fit a round peg in a square hole. You're fooling yourself. And then sometimes you'll say, well, what about you do this online? Well, I'm not computer literate. Well, why don't you write this? Well, I don't write well. Well, why don't you draw that? Well, I have no artistic skills. And it never, well, I can master that. I can learn that.
Mhm.
I got so frustrated with the whole thing. I just said, listen, we're no longer in romper room. This is not nursery school anymore. We have determined that Yahweh's view is that we listen and learn, or there is no reason for us to live. So I'm going to provide our platform, give you this platform to make a contribution.
Mhm.
Start producing your own shows. Start just producing your own shows. I'll give you categories that I think would be good, like, interviewing covenant members so that you know who people are that are part of the community. Do a book club, do a word of the day kind of a thing. And, you have Will's done a nice job with that. Roger's done a nice job with that. Mariah has started with it. You've got Shannon and Matt doing a really nice job with witnesses. And then you've got what I think is a marvelous contribution to the Y to Z group, showing that young people really do have a point of view and can contribute and be part of this. And so it's developing beautifully. Your family page is marvelous. It'll be right now. You can link to it by going to the chat thing that we presented, where I presented the link to it, and it'll soon be brought up as a proper link from our page. Joe is reworking the administration tool behind it until he gets it more solidified. He doesn't want to take it and make it a direct link, but it's there now, and it's a beautiful thing to see all those faces making a contribution. But I'm here to tell you, if you're not making a contribution, you're kidding yourself if you think that God's going to empower you during Shabua and take you into heaven, because you're just going to get in the way. This covenant, this particular harvest, is for a purpose, and the purpose is so that we are prepared to do what needs to be done in that 3.5 years to, it would be like pulling teeth, but to get the final gleaning of God's people, and then that final remnant. And I'm here to tell you that both are going to be, all three are going to be very small. They're going to be, the two harvests are going to be lean, and the remnant's going to be small. And I've spent this weekend translating Shaphat, Judges 19, and it rips your heart out, and you realize there's just no hope for the preponderance of God's people. There's just no hope for them at all. They're way too far gone. They're way too annoying. And I have 30,000 posts that I have read that others have made, most trying to identify them from the Israeli community. And I've made another 30,000. And the result of that is like what you would have if I put my hand in this glass of tea right here and lifted it out. That's the impact that has been made.
Yeah.
It's the impact that has been made against God's community with 40 books and tens of thousands of hours of audio programs. So we'd be kidding ourselves to think it's going to be any more. And it's not a reflection of our effort. It's a reflection of their attitude.
Yeah, and I want to dispel something. This idea that, we already have a book club show. No. There are 40 books. You are not going to step on somebody else's toes. Give me just a second here. I want to show you something. If you can read that on the screen, straight from the boss lady. So,
I will tell you what to do. Do what Mariah, Russell are doing. Read aloud, Kara, which is Kara. Call and invite. That is what you do, children. So the Amma is saying that if you think you have nothing to offer, if you think you really are incapable of being the least bit creative, inventive, but you still want to make a contribution because you're being told, and my guess is the motivation is selfish here, because you're being told that we're not in nursery school anymore. I'm not here to hold your hand anymore. I really do not care how many people claim to be covenant. I really do not care. I do not care if somebody leaves and walks away and is obnoxious, like we had somebody do this weekend. I do not care. In fact, only thing I care about is the time I can't get back, and trying to deal with the aggravation.
Absolutely.
But I do not care. Seriously, this is too hard a job. We have too much responsibility, and the audience is way too difficult for us to be involved with nonsense. So that's why I've said 1,000 times, and not 1,000 times, 50 times. If you're struggling with what to do, then start a book club, because the Yada Yada Book Club is exceedingly easy. There's like 20 different ways you can do it. And the easiest way is that you read a paragraph and you talk about it. You read another paragraph, you talk about it. You read a paragraph, you talk about it. What does it mean to you? What do you think? Do you have questions? And get 2 or 3 people in a book club and do it that way. It's exceedingly easy to do. That's what I would do. Now, if you look at Mariah and Russell, now they have a special place with Leah. Mariah is the most no nonsense, high character, bright, articulate woman that Leah deals with on a daily basis, and so she just dearly loves Mariah. And when she sees Mariah with Russell and the chemistry they have when they're together, she just lights up. So, and I happen to agree. I think Mariah's marvelous, and what I've seen of Russell, for him to come on this fast and grow this quickly, I'm really duly impressed. So, wonderful couple, a super easy thing to do. Roger B does the word of the day. Yeah, and he does it well.
Yeah.
Real simple, short, sweet, articulate. For the most part, what Will's doing is a book club. He's going through the 119th Mizmor letter by letter, and it works beautifully, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we all have a phone. I mean, if you're talking on the phone with someone, you can do a show. Hello. You hit record and you read the book and you keep your face in frame. It's not difficult.
It is not difficult. No.
There are 10-year-olds that have YouTube channels, so they can go directly from their phone and they can post it to their YouTube channel. YouTube channels are free.
Yes.
I'm not talking about even buying Rich's AI cam. I'm not talking about buying any equipment.
Because that's $118. Oh God, we wouldn't want somebody to have to make $118 investment in eternity, would you? Or somebody else's eternity? Oh God. And these ear plugs here, they can run sometimes like $40. Imagine having to spend that kind of money.
Right.
I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this, never taken a dime from anybody. And I'm as assured as in my place in eternity as anybody save Dode, and yet didn't even think twice about it. It's couldn't work. Where could you make a better investment?
Right. Absolutely. So I'm just get started. Just get started. My email's that you can find me on Yada Yada Chat if you have a question about how to, I want it to be on the family page, or hey, look, I want to promote. I just did one. Reach out to me on yadayada.com. Right. Okay. We'll figure out how to get it up where people can see it.
You can have a free StreamYard account too.
Yes.
You can even have a free StreamYard account, and there are all sorts of tutorials on how to do a StreamYard account. There are tutorials to how to use a webcam or your phone to do this. There are tutorials for everything, including how you can even have the written text available to you in advance. I talked to my buddy Jeff, Dr. Jeff, after he did a show with you. He said, I just wanted to get started because I knew it'd be rough on the first time, and I figured the second time would be better. But I can't improve on the second time unless I have a first time. So he decided to dive in. He says, it's what you do is not all that easy. He said, I thought I had the gift of gab, but that really isn't all that easy. And then he said, well, I think I need to have more material available. I said, hi, I'll give you an idea. Just free idea here. What you should do is take a subject that we cover in our books, like, is Dode the son of God?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So read the various places where Yahweh says, I am his father, he is my son. And so you have God's affirmation of this, and you can even have the Ask AI at Ask Yada's AI, and it can bring up those three places. Or you can do a search, and it'll bring up the places where that is presented. And then go to the Gemara and see what the rabbinical argument is. Go to the Talmud and see what they have, rabbis have written. Go to the Zohar and see what it has to say, and then compare the rabbinical rubbish to God's point of view. And then you'll have all of this text that you can cover, and that's a show. Then do the next show. Is Passover a 7-day holiday, or is it the first day of matzah? And is Passover historically symbolizing the freedom from Egypt, or just opening the door to life? Do that on the next one. Do the next one on the pronunciation of Yahweh's name. Is it appropriate, inappropriate? What is it? I said there, so there's more than a year's worth of topics, and all you do is you take what it says in Yada Yahweh, read that, compare it to what the rabbis say, and boy, will you have plenty of material. So yeah, I think I can do that. That's a better idea. So we'll see how that develops.
Right.
But by the way, that's something anybody can, and you could also do it for Christianity or for Islam. Take the books on. You could do shows on Islamic terror, for example. This is what the Quran and Hadith say on Islamic terror. So you could do shows on that. You could do shows on how Paul contradicted Yahweh, the misquotes where Yahweh says this, Paul says this, and you could do a single show. You've got all of the material right there. You can present it, read it, and then comment on it. Easy shows. Use the tools that are available. We're making the website available to show it, and the beauty of it is this is really your baby. I mean, I introduced the concept, but it's your baby. That family page, you created it. I mean, yes, Joe created the admin tool for you to be able to create it, but nonetheless,
it's shake and bake. It's shake and bake. I helped.
Okay, but almost all of those shows had you involved in one way or another with those helping the people.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. It's a really powerful tool.
It is, absolutely. And I was trying to get to my last train of thought with, these books are a summation of your learning and your trip and as you know with God. Okay. And so because you wrote them and you discovered it, it is very reinforced with you, right? I mean, you are the books. Absolutely. Yes. Okay. And so the same thing happens to people that when they start to teach what are in the books. Absolutely. It becomes a part of you. You will know it so much better. And so it's a simple show of you doing your learning. I mean, we did a show this weekend with Lisa, and she talked about how she has pages and pages and pages of notes that she's written in your books on the side about how she felt about that passage and and all this other stuff in there, right? And I'm like, and that's a show. She has that material, right? Get on camera and talk about, hey, I read this passage and this is how I felt about it, and then this is how I feel about it now. And I mean, it's like, yes, and it will totally reinforce that with you inside you, and you will internalize the material.
And the advantage is that with what we are learning now, and what I'm writing about in the translations and commentary, it probably resonates with a maximum of 40 people. That's probably the extent of that it resonates with.
Mhm.
The others, it either goes way over their heads, or they're just say, I'm going to show up, but I'll chit chat about other things in the chat room, and it's just way beyond them.
Mhm.
And it's okay, but my job. Listen, if we have 8 to 40 people that get it, that are ready to go when we need to get this job done, then we have done everything we need to do. We're set. So that's really the goal, is to make certain that we have anywhere from 8 to 80 people that are equipped and ready to go. And so that's the programs I'm doing are all designed for that group of people. Now, but there's a whole lot of people that could, in fact, grow to the level where they could be valuable over the 7 years and the 1,000 years. But the best way to do that is to have somebody else interpret the material for them, to talk about it, what it means to them, what they wrote down as a note, what they thought about, how it resonated with them, how it helped them. That's at a different level, and that is really appropriate right now. That way you can take that next 80 of the 160 that are registered on the site. You can take that next group and equip some of them to make that next step. And also it takes people who might be on the fringe of that group, and it does what you were just talking about. When you go from just hearing the information to coming to process it and trying to understand it and then teaching it, ultimately you own it.
Yeah, I remember the Blog Talk radio days. I had a buddy that was like, hey, I just don't understand what he's talking about. I'm reading the books and trying to keep up with him, but I don't understand and I'm like, yeah, even back then it was very, the PhD level stuff of you talking about, the new passages and things like that, because I'm dealing with people that don't even, first of all, the reason they can even get to us is they have no concept of what the Torah ever was. I mean, they know who Moshe is, but they've never read the Torah in any form, and so it's like, what are these Shabbat Judges things, and so there's so much that's completely new, Yeah,
and they've grown up in a culture that is indoctrinated by Christianity, so they believe that there really was a Jesus, and that the New Testament was a religious book inspired by God, and that God likes religion, and that bodies matter because Jesus's body was killed and then resurrected. So bodies must be important. And so you're taking an approach and says, no, there was no Jesus. The entire Christian New Testament is a fraud. And that's just shocking for most people. Then you're saying that the second most popular religion, Muhammad was not a prophet and Allah's not a God. And that the Quran book is the worst book ever written, and I'll prove it. But I'm going to use evidence and reason to do so. I'm going to use their words against them. And so you've got 10 volumes disproving the two most popularly accepted things in society. And that's tough. And then you're going to say your body is immaterial. In a world where bodies are celebrated, it's the most important thing in the world. Look, we had the number one influencer in the world promoting his body as this shrine where everybody else was trash. Andrew Tate was arrested in Florida. I mean, the ultimate piece of scum was finally incarcerated and is going to be extradited for abuse and sexual trafficking and rape and all those kinds of things. So when you tell somebody your body is meaningless, your soul is meaningful, and now I'm going to talk to you about your soul, and your soul is dimensions beyond where you are, that can't process it, or where you say that God has designated certain people to live many lives, and you'd been accustomed to hearing that because you'd believed, the myth of Jesus was coming back. So it was okay for him to have a couple of lives. And he had 2 lives when he was dead, and then, men killed him and everything. That's such a shame. What a terrible thing to have happen. And then he came back to life, and then he's returning back alive. So you were willing to accept 3 for him and 4 because you believed that he existed before he was born. So you're good with 4 for him. or you're, if read about Elia, you're
Mhm.
good for 2 at least with him, and you're good for at least 2 with everybody else, because, well, what purpose would this life be if you didn't have the opportunity to have an eternal life, right?
Mhm.
So, but if you say, but it's specific that someone like Dode had 6 specific lives. And that just says, oh, well, that's impossible. God could do 2 or 3 maybe, but 6, no way. I mean, he's got a strict limit on.
I draw the line at 5. I'm sorry.
I draw the line. I draw the line at 3, and you're saying, what is this that's so difficult for you? A soul exists outside of 3 dimensions, and a body is disposable. It has literally no value. So what is your problem? But it just singes people's ability to process information. I just so what are you going to do? Anyway, the Dead Sea Scrolls are what's shown there. Of course, that is not an accurate depiction of them, but what does AI know? That the first cave had a very small entrance, not a large entrance. There was no little walk-up path to it. It was on this cut into the side of a cliff. The view was of the Dead Sea. The jars were sealed. There was 1 or 2 scrolls in a jar. Cave 1, they only found 3 scrolls initially, and they were actually sealed in a jar. So it's a grossly inaccurate AI depiction, but such as AI. AI is not there to get things right.
Absolutely.
But that is what you need to know. All right. So here's the gang. These are souls that 6 to 8 lives each, and whether or not you agree with that or accept it or not, you're soon going to be confronted with that reality. So, by the time that you're confronted with more than words as proof, it'll be too late.
Yeah.
Take advantage. But that's God's story, is that when you read, as I had these last 3 days, I've been in Judges and in the 19th chapter. And that story, by the way, is the last chapter prior to Ruth. And you read the fact that the story is worse than the story in Sodom. It's far worse than the stories in Sodom. And that in that story, there are no good examples.
Yeah.
Horrid examples and worse examples and even more despicable examples. Everything in it is just an abomination. And it concludes with this, you're being told this story for a reason. You need to consider it. You need to speak about it. You need to understand it. So when you read it, you come to realize that for the most part, there is no way that there's ever going to be a significant harvest or a significant sized final remnant. The people are just not capable, they're not worthy. And nothing's going to change between now and then. And so you realize that God can only be doing all of this because he's fully aware of them. He's left them. He's gone to heaven. He says, I'm not returning until you return to me. That God can only have 2 motivations for continuing this experiment of Nasalma man. And one is, I think, a very weak one, that he made a promise to reconcile a relationship with Abraham's descendants of the covenant. I think that's actually a fairly weak one, because Abraham was such a scallywag. But I think it's a fairly weak one. I think and it's not enough to say I'm going to endure all of this with man, and man having rejected his side of the bargain, that I'm going to continue upholding my side of the bargain. That is not how bargains work.
Right. A broken contract's a broken contract. Everybody's let out.
That's correct. That's what I always say about this UN 242 and the Muslims wanting to reimpose the 1948 or 1967 borders, when they rejected them, and they rejected them violently. So if you reject an agreement, you can't go back after you've lost and say that's the agreement that I want.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Trump. He's continuing to double down on Iran. He's signed 2 agreements thus far. He's reneged on his agreements, and it gets worse and worse for him. And if he does a land invasion, it'll get infinitely worse for him. You're not going to be able to go back and say, well, I want that agreement that we had before I started bombing you again. Does not work that way. Once you've broken the agreement, you have no agreement. So God's not obligated to restoring his relationship with the descendants of Abraham through the covenant, because all they did was break it. In fact, if you go from Abraham and Sarah to Yishak and Rebecca, and then to Jacob and Esau and Leah and Rachel, and you go through the lot of them, and then to the naming conventions of Israel and Yahud. Other than Leah, there isn't a single decent example. There's not a good person in the lot of them, not one. And then you go through the Exodus, which is nothing but a shit show, and that's really being unkind to poop. And then you look at Israel now and their antagonism towards God, erasing his name, changing their name so it doesn't have his name in it anymore, overwriting his Torah with the Talmud and calling the Talmud Torah. They're obnoxious, and they claim that that what they're doing is wonderful and great, and it's literally, they've been checkmated. It's over for Israel. So you put it all together, and I know that God is not doing it because he made a promise to Abraham, because the other side of the deal contract has been negated, and it's been negated many times over. So it all gets back to that guy on the left side of your screen there. Dowd. That's it. That's the only reason. God created him as his firstborn, and he wants to enjoy his company, and he wasn't prepared. So we've gone through the 6,000 years for those lady in the middle and the guy in the funky jacket sitting there beside her. That is, by the way, a jacket that Leah in the fascist industry, she actually knows all about the history of that jacket and the history of the dress that she is wearing. So everything that you see in the avatars like this, she has either worn or purchased or made or something of that nature. It's a little funky on the jacket, but a guy that wears the kind of shirts that I do, which Isaiah seems to like, worked for me. But it's all because of the role that they have played over the last 6,000 years to develop the character and the intellect and the attitude of Dowd as God's firstborn. Now, it's not like, okay, thank you for all the work. I've got, you brought Dowd up to speed. Now, see you later. No, there's a lot that goes along with having done that. It has very, very long legacy in having done that. It's just that it's not going to appeal to a lot of people, and it's not going. A lot of people aren't going to be involved in it, but there'll be a mortal remnant, some 1,500 people. There'll be two harvests, probably in the range of hundreds of people in each of them, and that will be more than enough. What man has proven over and over and over again to God is that when there's a lot of us, we are awful. And so the last thing he wants is a lot of us, because a lot of us are horrible together. And that's the message I want to convey, is that God's not looking for a lot of us. He is far happier to have a few of us than more of us, because more of us is always the worse of us.
Yeah. It is not good for Adam to be alone. And so that means in Shamaim as well. We're pretty sure that Chawa didn't make it, and so he needs a bride,
Correct.
And so that's the point.
And he's done really, really, really poorly in choosing women to be associated with, either as concubines or as wives.
Right.
So the lady in the middle is going to teach him some manners. That's what the 31st Mizmor is all about. Says she's basically saying, I want you to think with the big head, not with the little head. And we're going to have you stop abusing women and make better choices in women, and things are going to work out a lot better for you, is what she basically said. And the first thing you're going to do is knock off the wine, because it's not appropriate for you to do that. And then the second thing you're going to do is realize who you are, because you're not some ordinary dude here. We're all here because of you. And so you need to know who you are. And then I says, the next thing is she's going to dress him. So there he is.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
That's the story.
Israel has always been a very, very small kingdom. Comparative to the rest of the world, it is a kingdom, specifically placed in the crossroads of the world, so everybody gets the opportunity to interact with it and know what it is and get the message, right? So going forward,
be careful on the chosen people, because the chosen people did not choose God in return, and it's going to be a tiny, tiny, tiny remnant of them.
That's what I was.
Tiny,
that was my point. Collectively, I mean, it's a kingdom doesn't have to be this large thing. You know what I'm saying? 40 people makes a
Jews
kingdom.
represent 0.2% of the world's population, and the number of people that are going to make the final cut and be allowed off this planet with Yahweh is going to be much, 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 much less than 0.2%. But 0.2% does put it in perspective. It at least gets you in the right direction. God makes it clear that there will be thousands who will benefit from his terms and conditions of his covenant. He says that in the second statement that he etched on the first tablet. And thousands amongst billions is 1 in a million. Yeah, Salman Rushdie, boy, has he ever had a rough go of it. Religions, like all other ideas, deserve criticism, satire, and fearless questioning. Yeah, it's true, but the religious respond to factual and rational proof that they are wrong by killing the witness. And so it is look who's here. We have Kara having taken one of Wookie's
wearing her boyfriend's shirt.
Yeah, shirt. Yeah, well, girls will be prone to do that. So there's Kara. So I would just be careful in the sense that the religious typically respond to those who question their religion very, very aggressively and violently. And it's never to the facts that they raise. It's always to slay the messenger, as Salman Rushdie found out. Salman Rushdie, of course, got in the crosshairs of Islam for writing a novel called The Satanic Verses. And what Muslims don't seem to know, nor anybody in the West know, is that Muhammad admitted to the Satanic Verses. Muhammad was being obnoxious in his hometown, which was Petra, and he was making all sorts of false claims while plagiarizing the work of the Hanifs in Yemen, which were Arab converts to Judaism, to create the first part of the Quran. And they were saying, well, we knew all about the Hanifs. He, of course, incorporated the pagan religion of the Kaaba into his religion, and he claimed that it was his, not somebody else's. So he just became obnoxious, and his own extended family said, "I'll tell you what, we know that all you're really interested in sect power and money, so we're going to give you this pagan indulgence." And the pagan indulgence is, if you incorporate our gods with your gods, that'll be fine. We'll make you king for a day. We'll give you boatloads of money, and you can pick any of the women in town to be yours. And so he did. He incorporated Alat, Manat, and Al-Uzza into the Quran, and they're written right into the Quran. And the only problem with that is that the father, Abu Bakr, of the sex toy, Aisha, that when Muhammad was 66, if he was born in the year of the elephant, which is pretty obvious that he would have been 66 when Aisha was 6 and they began to have sex together. He was Aisha's father, and he was really the lone stalwart of Islam at that time, the convert. And he said, wait a minute, I gave you my daughter, and I'm devoted to this thing. And you told me we were starting a monotheistic religion, and here now you have 3 goddesses that you've just brought into it. I'm out. And so Muhammad recanted and said that all of Allah's messengers speak on behalf of Satan.
Mm-hmm.
That was his excuse for including the Allat, Al-Uzza, and Manat into the Quran, is that all of Allah's messengers speak on behalf of Satan. Therefore, it became the satanic verses. Immediately thereafter, of course, Muhammad needed to get out of town because he was a joke. And so that's when he came up with the Night's Journey. He didn't know where he was going, didn't know the name of the city. But he had been exposed to enough Jews in Petra, where the Kaaba was, to know that north of them there was this famous city whose, I guess, name escaped him. And he imagined that he was brought a winged donk mule. It was halfway between a donkey and a mule, and it had wings on it. And that he got up in the middle of the night while sleeping with his sex toy, Aisha, and mounted the donk mule, or it mounted him. I don't know which the order was. And we know that it was shy. So we don't really know how it all happened. But nonetheless, he leapt into the atmosphere on his winged donk mule, and he came to the Temple Mount, where he was certain there was a temple, because he includes it in the hadith depictions of that day, not knowing that the temple had been destroyed 600 years prior by the Romans. His story was not his strong suit. So he hobnobs there, and then he needs to finish his job, because you couldn't get to Allah from the Kaaba. The only way to get to Allah was not through the Kaaba, but was through the temple in Jerusalem. And so the donk mule leaps up. That's the dome of the hoofy print now, marks the place where the donk mule's hoof print was when leaping up. Now, I don't know why you would leave a footprint leaping up if you have wings, but I've never seen a donk mule either. Last time I checked, that asses typically don't fly, but let's go with the story. It's scripture, so it must be true, right? And so the donk mule leaves his footprint, which then becomes the Dome of the Rock. And it leaps up towards Allah. But to get to Allah, you have to get through hell. Now, the reason that hell was the first stop to get to Allah is because in the Quran, Allah spends all of his time in hell. Allah is never depicted any place other than hell, and he's always torturing people in hell. If you didn't know better, you would swear that Allah must be Satan, since he's sadistic and in hell all of the time, torturing people. But of course, he couldn't be Satan, because we couldn't have 2 billion people worshiping Satan now, could we? So he ends up in hell, and in hell he looks around. He says, why are all of the inhabitants women, and why are they all hanging from their breasts with meat hooks? It's a charming place. Allah runs a good shop. No misogynist here. And he's told that because they weren't grateful to their husbands. So that's the answer. And then he sees his adopted son's wife, and she says, "Ooh la la, that is a looker there. I want her." And later that was used as justification for incest. So you have a pedophile now engaging in incest, who was also a many times rapist. But nonetheless, that's Allah's kind of guy. And he leapt up from there to the various levels of heaven. He assumed that there were 7 of them. And every place that there was a heaven, the gatekeeper was one of the Jews, and the story of the Torah and prophets. So he comes to Adam and Moshe and Abraham and he's in Noah, and he's going up the list. How in the world this could be a religion of Arabs and Arabic when every one of the gatekeepers and every one of the 7 heavens happened to be a Jew? But let's go with the flow, because I'm sure that's not a contradiction in the message of the Quran, because after all, it's scripture, right? And We couldn't have a God that stupid that would appeal to 2 billion people. So recognizing that would be impossible, obviously it makes some kind of sense to someone somehow. He finally gets to the big guy up there in heaven. And when he gets there, he's told, he doesn't get to ask any questions, by the way, not a single question, not a single answer. It's just, you get up there and he says, I want 50 butt-ups a day. I want to be mooned 50 times a day. I want your noses in the dirt. That's what I'm looking for, 50 times a day. And he comes back down, he meets with Moshe. He says, oh, yeah, that's the same message I was given. But what I found out is that he's negotiable. You go back up, and you don't accept 50 a day. You got to talk him down. The people just can't. People can't do 50 times a day. And now, of course, according to the Quran, Allah gets what Allah wants, and Allah never changes. He imposes whatever he wants. And so that whole strategy there was, of course, absolutely contradicted to the Quran. But it couldn't be contradicted because it's the Quran and it's a holy book. But he goes back up and he negotiates the number down to 5 times a day that Muslims need to moon their God and put their nose in the dirt. That's really an exceptional God. But you have a really high quality God when he wants to see your a-hole and wants your nose in the dirt. That's highly regarded in religious circles for gods that are.
So are butt-ups a technical term?
Butt-up's the technical term, yes. It's as if the Muslim prayer is via the a-hole. Because the God likes a-holes because he can relate to the a-hole because he may be an a-hole since he spends all of his time torturing a-holes and his version of hell. And of course, his version of paradise is perpetual virgins that, that would be, and of course, rivers that run from wine, which you can't have on earth. But nevertheless, it's a contradiction, but it can't be a contradiction. Anyway, he gets back down. He goes to wakes back up in his bed. We never hear about the donkey mule ride back to Petra, which was where the Kaaba was. But nonetheless, he wakes up in his bed, and the first thing he wants to do is tell Aisha his wet dream. And she goes, you idiot, you never left here all night. If you go and tell people this, they're absolutely going to know that you are a madman, you're insane, that you're an idiot, particularly after the satanic verses. Don't embarrass us this way, please. So he gets back up and he tells the whole donkey mule story and going to Mecca and the temple and all the stuff that he did. And that's what Salman Rushdie wrote about. And it's one of the reasons why I always say that if Israelites were to confront the stupidity of Islam just with knowledge, shed their ignorance, go to yadayah.com, read goddamn religion. It's all there. The proof is all there. It's all documented. This is what really happened. And by the way, that all led to apartheid and genocide of Jews. So it's in their interest to read it and to destroy Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock because they are an embarrassment to humankind. That's my view. And, oh, by the way, I've not had a knife put in my eye or in my body or any place else. And I've received more death threats than Salman Rushdie has. So maybe I've got a pretty good deal going with the guy that doesn't like Allah very much.
Yeah.
Something to think about. Maybe the mother goddesses ought to be thinking about that too. How I could have received fatwas and death threats and written those books against Islam and done all those radio shows, done far, far more. I mean, essentially 1,000 times more than he did. And
he's been in hiding. He's been in hiding most of his life.
He goes in hiding, has bodyguards. I have no bodyguards and I've never hid. And I publicly let people know where I am. If I was a mother goddess cult member, I might think of that and say, I wonder how that happened. Oh, well, I don't know. Let's go and slander him anyway. It's fun. Bye, Salman. Well, one day the world is going to thank Benjamin Netanyahu. By the way, do you think there's any Jew that knows what Netanyahu actually means?
I think that he would know that that's the gift from Yah. I would think that they would. But
who's Yah? They won't say Yah's name, and it's Yahu. Well, the only thing that's left is the at the end. So why would they have written Yahweh's name out of their names? They used to be Yehudim, which means related to Yah. It actually is a compound of Yahweh's name and Dod's name. But why would they do that? How could he be a gift of Yah and he won't even say Yah's name? Well, anyway, Benjamin Netanyahu for defending the West and the civilization against Islamic barbarism. Listen, nobody knows more about Islamic terrorism than I do. And I can tell you that Benjamin Netanyahu has not been a fighter against terrorism. He has actually aided and abetted the cause of Islamic terrorism. He has checkmated Israel. His stupidity in response to 10/7, his destruction of Gaza is a relative as 10/7, his ambition to have this unending war to kill every Hamas member, which cannot be done, and rid Gaza of Hamas while destroying the place. All it's doing is destroying Israel. His 2 wars against Lebanon, his 2 wars against Iran, all they have done is isolate Israel from the world, putting Israel in a checkmate position. So rather than doing that, he's done the opposite. And he is afraid to criticize Islam. And if you're afraid to criticize Islam, you're afraid to speak of what happened in Gaza as Muslims screaming Allahu Akbar. Sinwar's name is not Allahu. Hamas is not Akbar. It's Allahu Akbar. There's only one Allah, and that's in Islam. And the behaviors that were practiced were identical to what happened in Kabar, which is why every Muslim out there screams about Yahuds and Kabar, because they know that 10/7 was nothing but a reenactment of what Muhammad did to the Jewish farming community one morning in Kabar. Right to the same tactics. And Netanyahu has never said this. He has never gone off and said that the problem is Islam. And so you're absolutely wrong. Dead wrong. Netanyahu is the problem. He's not the solution.
Yeah, you can't read literally anything online today and think that one day the world will thank them. The world hates them because of what Netanyahu has done.
Universally. Universally, they do. Yeah, it's true. And he's taken anti-Semitism, which was created primarily by the Christian New Testament. And so Christianity is the primary cause of anti-Semitism. And he has expanded anti-Semitism worldwide, where it's become chic now and popular. You want to be an influencer today? You need to be anti-Semitic. And it's largely because of the idiocy of Netanyahu.
One thing MAGA and Marxists can agree on, one thing.
Yes.
Blame the Jews.
They blame the Jews. It's the whole world is now blame the Jews. And well, it's Islam that deserves blame. Netanyahu has been played and has been so foolish in his response to Islam that he's essentially destroyed Israel. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of places they want to say, that the stories and what they call the Bible are untrue. And this idea that a man can't survive for 3 days in a whale. Okay, that's true. A man cannot survive 3 days in a whale. And that is not a problem, however, for the credibility of Yahweh. Yahweh gave us a test that he presented twice in Debati. Simple test. He says, you can apply this test to know whether or not someone is speaking for me or if it's a false prophet. The last time I tried to go and deal with the book of Jonah, I couldn't get 3 sentences into it. And I said, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. And then push it a little further. Well, that's not true. That's not true. Well, that's not true. And so it breaks Yahweh's rules every which way. The same thing is true with the book of Job. The same thing is true with the book of Enoch. And the same thing is true with the book of Ezekiel, although it's worse with Ezekiel because Ezekiel goes from just not being inspired by God to actually being inspired by Satan. It's Satan's plan.
Yeah.
So the difficulty here is that God gave us a test to use, and nobody wants to use it. Except, well, I did. But yeah, the book of Jonah is not true. It does not pass God's test. By the way, the first half of Daniel and much of Daniel, even the trappings around the things that were delivered by Gabriel and Michael, they're not true either. In fact, it's not just they aren't true; they're horribly untrue. You look at the book of Esther. Didn't even get contemporary. If you can't get contemporary history right, which Daniel couldn't do, and the book of Esther can't do, then you certainly aren't a prophet if you can't even replicate the history of that era accurately. So the rabbis, their favorite two books are Ezekiel and Esther, and both of them are false. And in Christianity, they love the book of Jonah because their Jebus mentions it, and it's false too. And they love the book of Enoch. It's false. And they love the book of Ezekiel too because it's the most cited book in Revelation. But when you realize that Ezekiel is Satan's playbook and it's not true, and it's the most cited book in Revelation, what does that make Revelation?
Yeah. Crap. Satanic.
Yeah, and that's being unkind to poop.
Halal Ben Shakar sure does like to promote his own stuff, doesn't he? I mean, it's like he likes to cross brand with his
he
stuff.
Does. He's really good at
Islam.
cross yeah. That's Satan. He's cross brander. He does not care how you worship him, so long as you worship him, and that you don't ever get to know Yahweh. Yeah, this is a picture I've shown before, but it's so effective of showing what happened with ICE. This is Purdy. He was in this position because he came out to document how the masked agents of ICE were operating. And while he was there, ICE, which they do quite frequently, they started pushing around a little old lady. And so he is an emergency room nurse, and he, as a man of character, stood up for the little old lady and positioned himself between the two of them while trying to film what was happening. And these goons decided to blow his brains out. And the state of of Minnesota doesn't have the fortitude to indict them. But I think it's important for people to know too, because you see a lot of statements. The comparison isn't to 1941 and 2026, and the comparison isn't Gestapo or SS to the brown shirts. The brown shirts are a private militia that were created by Adolf Hitler, paid by Americans, particularly George Prescott Bush and George Herbert Walker. And they used the proceeds that they had made from Union Bank to fund them. And they gave Hitler a personal army that he could deploy nationally to terrorize Germans into compliance. And that's what Donald Trump is doing with ICE. So they are equivalent to the brown shirts. And ultimately, the brown shirts were done in by the arrival of the SS and the Gestapo, because the SS and the German army didn't want the competition of these armed guards inside of the country if they were going to fight wars outside of the country. So the Night of the Long Knives was designed to have the SS and the German military, once Hitler had been elected and the brown shirts were no longer needed, to take them out and kill them. And the same thing is likely being set up with the U.S. military versus ICE now. They will also endure their Night of the Long Knives, and no one's going to shed a tear for them. I have two
Did that one
clips
get
of
removed?
him. Pardon?
It looks like this one got removed because it just says it just talks about JFK and there's no text there.
Oh yeah, this is it's I think that was where Tucker Carlson is his current rant is to condemn Jews for killing JFK, and his explanation is, since there was no evidence that indicted the Jews in the because the entire file on JFK has been released. Since there was no evidence that the Jews were involved in killing JFK, that it must be the Jews because they're the ones who had that information redacted.
There's okay. Wait, hold on. So there's no mention
no
of
proof.
Jews. There's no proof. Okay, and that is the proof that
is
okay.
the proof. That's the proof.
Okay.
The proof. Because there would be proof if women, if they did it, there would be proof. No, if they didn't do it, there'd be. I'm sorry. My mind just doesn't work this way. Anyway, that was his thing. Anybody who has taken the time to understand what JFK was doing at the time and how that was in opposition to the power brokers in America, the military-industrial complex, the CIA, and the like, knows why he was killed. They wanted to go to fiat money, which they got Nixon to do afterwards, and to create the petrodollar, which has been what's bankrupt America, to spend way beyond her means, and Kennedy didn't want to do that. They like internal conflict, and they liked it better when blacks were not allowed into the same schools and they were prejudiced against. And JFK delivered the most courageous speech in the history of presidents when he went against his own party, when his party says, if you do this, not only won't you win the election, you'll probably be assassinated. And months later, he was assassinated. When he did a national television address and said, we need to honor the ideals of this country. And we can't prejudice against people based upon the color of their skin. It was one of the great speeches ever made by anybody in any elected office ever. And that torqued him off. And then you had the Bay of Pigs, which was a stupid, half-hearted CIA plan that failed miserably. Regime change operations by the CIA have a consistent history. They always fail. And JFK was embarrassed by it, didn't want to proceed. The military-industrial complex wanted war. So that upset him. He solved the Cuban Missile Crisis by taking the American missiles out of Turkey. But that was the only reason they were part of NATO. So that pissed him off. So he pissed off the powers that be, and they killed him. And JFK was all for ramping up the war in Vietnam. He knew that the Gulf of Tonkin incident was a lie, and yet he still used it to assure that 60,000 Americans would lose their lives in Vietnam because, well, that was really profitable for the military-industrial complex. And so JFK or LBJ did what JFK would not do. So they just replaced him. And that's the reason he was murdered. Now, as for this buffoon, what a wimp he is. Good God. That's the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. And his this speech here, he says, it's a political divide now between common sense and communism. First of all, there is a difference between socialism and communism. Is socialism the gateway drug to communism? Yes, but not all socialist countries are communist countries. And so there is a difference between the two. And while Democrats are 60 to 70% Marxists and therefore socialists, which is stupid on their behalf because it has never worked anywhere and it's never going to work anywhere. And it's destructive of everything. They nonetheless have got themselves all slathered up in a lather as if history doesn't mean anything and that they're going to create a different outcome by doing the same procedure. But the last time it was imposed, you had 150 million people starved to death and were killed between the Soviet Union and Red China. It's a swell system, right? So he's comparing common sense to communism. The Dems are not communists; they're socialists, and the MAGAs don't have common sense. They're insane.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if you're a MAGA, I mean, you are literally insane. It's not that Donald Trump should take a cognitive test. We already know there's nothing in there but demons. It's MAGA that ought to take a cognitive test to still support this demon is just unconscionable.
Unbelievably stupid.
Yes. From death to life, I'm yours, Jesus. So he is having a prayer. This is one of the things that bothered me probably more than anything else in the days that I was a Christian, is those people that tell you to pray publicly, where, you have a large congregation and you want to lead the congregation in prayer.
Mm-hmm.
You know that it's a fraud. You're not praying to a God up there. You're praying to be heard by the people here.
Uh-huh.
And he's got one right here where he's praying out loud, looking out at his audience, to his fake God, for his audience to think that, well, he must be a real godly man. He's leading us in prayer. No, he's speaking to them.
Mm-hmm. So that he can put his kid through college.
Oh, yeah. Well, Jesus should never existed. And it's so obvious Jesus didn't exist. He was nothing but a counterfeit of Dode.
Went the Tucker mental gymnastics. This is insanity.
Go ahead and play this. This is really insanity.
Iranians know that they have to know that they will be doomed, literally doomed, if America wants to force their hand, if they don't want to come to the table to make that agreement. There will be hell to pay, literally. President Trump has made that very clear. So I expect the Iranians to feel the hurt and to come back to the table and try to get to a better deal. That accomplishes
sometimes
that.
hard to know.
Oh my God. If you're an American, you should just be ashamed. You should just wallow, wake up in the morning and pull the covers over and say, oh my God, I need to ignore this. So they're going to be doomed. So you're speaking of your country, and your country's purpose is to doom people. You're saying they're going to endure hell. So you're going to send a country of 90 million people that you're going to doom the lives of 90 million people, and you're going to send them to hell. And that's moral. And then you're saying that what you need, and you're doing it because you want to bring them to the bargaining table. That's like saying the beatings will continue until morale improves. And, oh, by the way, idiot, they've been at the bargaining table. They were at the bargaining table when you attacked them the first time. They were at the bargaining table again when you bombed them the second time. Both times they were at the bargaining table. And the last time they were at the bargaining table in the middle of this war, your idiot president said he was going to kill them before they could get back home and destroy their entire country in the process. And you're saying that you are the moral one sitting at the bargaining table, and you need to get them at the bargaining table when they've been there. And every time they're there, you either bomb them and kill their little children, or kill the heads of their government, or threaten to kill the negotiators themselves. How could you be that big a piece of shit? Really?
It's Fox News. It's obviously easy for these idiots.
Oh my God. It's the immoral and the ignorant news channel. And then on top of all of that, you say they've got to be willing to make a deal. They've made a deal. They had the 14-point plan and the 10-point plan. Trump agreed to both of them, even signed one of them. They made a deal. America reneged on it.
And continues to do so. Yeah, yes.
And by the way, there is no deal to be made here other than to surrender. The only thing that will solve the world's economic problem, which is going to be severe, the hunger problem, which will be severe, the only thing that can be done at this point is for America to admit that it lost and to leave the Middle East. It has to abandon its bases in the Middle East. It has to abandon the petrodollar system. It has to pull its navy out of the Middle East and go back home. And then while the Strait of Hormuz is going to be under a tariff, it will be under a tariff that's manageable. It'll be 1% to 2%. And that's it. And the oil lanes will open back up again. But Trump's got such an ego, he can't admit that he lost, that he took a situation that wasn't broken and he broke it.
Once he figured out he actually surrendered the first time, he had to start it all back up again.
Twice. He remember we went over the original, I think it was a 10-point plan, and he agreed to it. And I said, well, let me tell you what the 10-point plan he just agreed to is. And we did a whole show on it. Mm-hmm. And then he went over to negotiate on that plan and reneged on every point of it. And made an utter fool of himself to everybody but MAGA, because they've got their head in their a-holes, which is a fairly good trick. So at least they've got that going for them. And then he signs in the Treaty of Versailles the 14-point memorandum of understanding, which is a complete surrender agreement.
Mm-hmm.
A total surrender agreement. He gets lambasted back home and said, why did you sign a surrender agreement? And he starts bombing them again.
Let's not call it surrender.
Yeah. Well, what I don't understand,
so they surrender. So they agree to our terms. No, they're not going to agree to your terms. You lost.
What is this negotiating tactic where I'm going to say, Craig, until you give me what I want, I'm going to keep cutting off my own fingers. Okay. Every day that you don't give me what I want, I'm going to cut off another finger of mine. What is this?
And then I'm going to have my goons cut off yours too. And then by the time your eyes have been poked out and you cut off your tongue and cut off your fingers and toes, and mine are all gone too, then we're going to have an agreement. The beatings will continue until the morale improves. We are so screwed up as a country. It's just flat out embarrassing. And yet you had these, here I am. God is right. On Fox.
Yeah, there's nothing militarily left in any, they can't get to anything militarily. So they're all bombing civilian targets. And so that just opens the door for Iran.
Which is a war crime. And every time they do it, the Iranians do the same thing. They respond by attacking the neighboring Arab fiefdoms. But
Kuwait's going to fall apart. Kuwait is going to be gone in a week. It's just going to completely fall apart in a week.
Gone. The United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, it's Saudi Arabia. It was just utterly stupid what Trump has done, not once but twice. And as I've said this time and said it for a year, that I think he's going to go back and go to war with Iran. And I want you to know that if he does, there'll be no way to settle it. It cannot be resolved. It will end with the destruction of the world economies, and it will advance to a regional war and probably into a world war. And there is no negotiated settlement of this war because Trump's ego won't allow him to surrender when he has clearly lost.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so he is now the evangelist. Same fellow. Now, this time, rather than talking about we're common sense and they're this, that, he's disassociating socialism and saying that no creator, therefore godless, and here we are, MAGAs, boy, we're the ones that are with God and we're religious. Of course, your God is a dead God on a stick. And your God, the people who believe in your God have elected and are promoting Satan. You're number one.
Oh, Mike.
And he's talking about how socialism controls. That's the basis of socialism. Well, I would agree that communism and socialism concentrate power, and therefore they are very controlling. But guess what? The most controlling thing that man has ever conceived is religion. Yeah, religion.
What's Paul say? All governments come from God.
Yeah, you need to submit to them. Obey them or else. Yeah, it's religion. Most controlling thing ever conceived. The essence that created the control mechanism of Rome was religion mixed with the army, and then it became the Roman Catholic Church, and it was religion mixed with torture.
What is the famous render unto Caesar and render unto God? But they both want my gold. So
Yeah, but why do they want my gold? You may be knowledgeable about many things, but if you do not fear God, you are ignorant. Yeah, in his whole spirits there is just again begins with the fear of God. So if you do not fear God, you are ignorant. Sir, a God who would want you to fear him is a tyrant. He's not worth knowing. You can't have a relationship with a God who terrorizes you. Your little Jesus was so unfearsome that the men managed to kill him. And he was a pacifist. So why would you claim that the fear of God is something that was intelligent when your pretend God was a pacifist and men killed him? And God never asks you to fear him. The word is yare, and when it's applied to God, it means to respect and revere. You cannot respect that which terrorizes you. That's the problem that Trump's having with Iran right now. You don't get earn people's respect when you bomb them, particularly when you kill their little children. So, no, you are absolutely wrong. You're misleading people. That is a hideously ugly church, by the way. And you are spreading lies. God has no interest in being feared, and if he did, he wouldn't be worth knowing. And your pretend God was the antithesis of this. So why are you preaching such lies? Oh my. When I heard her voice parroting Trump's viciousness in Iran, I really wanted to puke. I mean, she's been back 2 or 3 days since her maternity leave, and she has really come back as just the embodiment of evil. What a travesty! She's talking about Iran's murderers when this is the war that Trump started, and that Trump murdered all of their heads of state, and yet she wants to call the Iranians murderers when the murderer is Trump. She wants to call the Iranian leaders terrorists when it is the United States that is constantly terrorizing Iran. When you're paying for their crimes against America, when in fact they are punishing America as never before. As the Arachi said, he says, we can build bridges back, but we'll never have another opportunity to hold America accountable. And that's what they're doing. And so you, little KKK Barbie, this is a problem that is going to stain your soul forever. And there's a place for stained souls, and it sure as hell is not heaven.
Yeah, I forgot.
I think we ought to name the White House, by the way, too. If you're going to name the Department of Defense the Department of War, why don't we name it the Red House?
From the blood, yeah.
Or we could name it the Gold House because of what Trump's doing.
The Gilded, yeah.
Yeah, the Gilded House.
The Gilded, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for the news article. I was looking for the news article the other day of the school that the Iranians bombed here in the United States that killed all them little girls, the murderous Iranians. I was looking for that news article the other day and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, we had tough time to find that one. 168 little schoolgirls that was bombed by AI picking the targets in a Tomahawk missile, where the president of Iran says, no, it wasn't me. It was your own Tomahawk missile. Oh, we don't have Tomahawk missile. Don't mind that. It was you did this to yourself. That was the article you're looking for.
Yeah. the murderous Iranian regime. That
Okay.
Dude,
You're
if we
going to
just
have a tough time finding that article and written by an American school. Yeah, somebody had a post the other day that said, "What would you do to Iran if they killed President Trump?" And my answer was, send them a nice thank you card and maybe some flowers.
Right.
I mean, obviously, I'm not going to go off and do this, but I will tell you that when you make a decision that you're going to go bomb and kill their head of state and mutilate his son and mutilate and kill his daughter and his wife, you go off and cold-blooded murder them. You probably invited retribution, just maybe, sort of, kind of, deserve it, sort of, maybe.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised that they pull it off. I mean, I don't think they'll kill him because I don't think he can be killed prior to Tarua in 2033. But I wouldn't be surprised they give it a good go. And they're certainly justified.
Put him in a wheelchair.
Yeah, that would be fine. He's going to be in a wheelchair anyway because he has those bone spurs that kept him out of service in Vietnam. So I'm sure they're very painful. And he's got cankles.
Right.
Yeah, this is we're going to play this because it's when you say that we're going to blow them off the face of the earth. Can you imagine saying Fox News again, which is I would call it the wolf's bite, but Fox, no, foxes are cute. It's not fair. Satan's news channel, maybe. But the person here is bragging that we're going to blow them off the face of the earth.
Because
just
Project Freedom.
And
Project Freedom.
Freedom. And we started the war. Yeah, go ahead and play it. It's a short clip, I think.
Trey just spoke with President Trump moments ago. He's live from Tel Aviv for us. Hello, Trey.
Sandra, good afternoon. I spoke with President Trump for 20 minutes about the situation with Iran. He talked about Project Freedom and the U.S. efforts to guide vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, issuing a new warning to the Iranian regime, saying if the Iranians try to target U.S. ships in this area, they will be, quote, blown off the face of the earth. Remember, this was a project implemented by the Americans overnight to assist the hundreds of vessels that are currently trapped in the Persian Gulf. We're talking about more than 20,000 sailors. And the president told Fox he's doing this for humanity. Some of these sailors were running out of food and supplies on these vessels due to the Iranian threats that are ongoing in this area.
I have started this war, and I'm going to bomb them like they've never been bombed before for humanity. I'm going to.
How do they do this with a straight face?
The Strait of Hormuz, that is the supply of 25% of the world's fertilizer, and I'm going to get it closed. And then I'm going to make certain we don't have the fuel to make diesel, so we can't run the tractors to grow food in our farms. And we're going to destroy the world's economy by the actions that I'm undertaking as we blow people to smithereens and make every manager a threat. But I'm doing it for humanity. I'm going to commit war crimes in the process, but I'm doing it for humanity. Isn't that swell? That's what a Satan has really changed. He has become so gentlemanly as he has aged, doing it for humanity. Satan hates humans, by the way.
Very concerned about those sailors and their lack of oranges, and they're running out of food on their vessels. Yes.
Yeah, boy, isn't that a? I will tell you that the hotels in Dubai and in Qatar and the UAE and all these, they're empty.
Yeah,
so
I bet.
All of those sailors could be in 5-star, very, very fancy accommodations while their boats rust out there in the middle of the Persian Gulf.
And all we have to do is literally nothing. Just move the ships, take the U.S. ships out of the area, and it opens back up.
It does.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Immediately.
It's just leave.
Project Freedom.
The solution is just to leave. Stop doing what you're doing because you made this mess. Just leave in the interest of humanity. Just leave.
Yes, and all those ships will be free.
Free at last. Oh my God. My
Project
ships are
Freedom.
free at last.
Yeah, but isn't he still trying to cover his buddy's shorts on Wall Street?
Well,
Oh yeah, the fuels.
every
On
time that he
oil
is
shorts, yeah.
guardian of the sea, and we're going to make 20. We're going to have a 20% tariff. It's all about covering the short sales to keep oil in and around $100. But ultimately, the reality is going to hit, and it's going to go where it needs to go to cover the shorts, because there is a major shortage of oil, which is going to be a very difficult thing for the short sellers to ultimately deal with. Besides that, it's insider trading. They're all going to prison. But who sweats the small stuff? Most people think that America is really technologically advanced, and we've got this world-class missile defense system, and that we're really on our game in terms of our military. Our military is absolutely perfectly suited to fight World War II. I am convinced that the U.S. could win World War II with its present military.
We would roll right over Hitler.
Oh, we really would. Yeah, we have. Oh boy, our tanks, and in fact, we're bringing back battleships. I mean, we're really
air superiority.
Yeah, air superiority. We'd have it knocked. Well, maybe not, because ultimately in World War II it took ground troops, and we don't have those anymore. But we could bring in the Russians. They had plenty of them, and
Right.
we're enemies with the Russia. It won't work. The Chinese have lots of. We're enemies with the Chinese. I guess we couldn't win World War II. The fact of the matter is that the missiles and the drones that the Iranians are launching, they don't just go, they go, and because they move, we're getting about 4% intercept now on the Patriot missile system.
4%.
4%. So, and it takes 2 or 3 shots together to get 4%. So they're able to hit what they're firing at. And we are not able to defend what they're firing at.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a big suspicion that China or Russia are helping them out with that targeting tech. So what the solution? I think we just go to war with all of them. Yeah, let's go to war with Russia and with China, because they're helping the people that we're bombing. And it's unfair for them to help their ally that we are bombing. Is it? With technology, isn't that what America does everywhere? Yeah, but it's with different rules for America and everybody else.
Right.
America is clueless as to what you need to do. Their Golden Dome is going to further bankrupt America. They look at our great new aircraft carrier, the Gerald Ford. The Gerald Ford is docked now for somewhere between 2 and 3 years to flush the toilets and to clean the laundry. So clean the laundry and flush the toilets. The Gerald Ford is out of service and in dry dock. What they're saying is going to be 1.5 to 2 years, but it'll be 3 to 4 years before that ship is splashed again. And it still probably won't have functional toilets or a laundry that can clean things without combusting. But part of his, we're just going to keep on bombing. We're running out of munitions. We've already run out of interceptors, and they didn't work, obviously. And now we're running out of munitions. What in the world are you going to do? The ships we have that are bombing out in the Gulf, their tubes are empty. The submarines, their tubes are empty. We can't load them up, and we'd have to bring all of the ships back anyway to the United States to fill them again, and we don't have anything to put in them. So we have to leave them there. And they're claiming, we have 100% embargo. No, the primary customer of the Iranians is the Chinese, and we have not intercepted a single Chinese ship and can't.
Yeah, that's a really bad
Not
idea.
going to.
No, we're not
They're
going
not
to.
going to. Yeah. Here's your
Isn't that a beautiful sight? Yeah, I have, because of X, where he is a superstar, and he is a misogynist, abusive, foul-mouthed, anti-woman, anti-Semite influencer that appeals to the culture that exists on X in particular. And he is in every possible way reprehensible. And now he's going to go and spend some time with the fellas in jail. The fellas are going to not like him very much. They don't like pedophiles. They don't like the rapists. They have a way of dealing with rape. And his fancy clothes and his fancy cars and all of his fancy cigars. Chances are he's gonna miss all of that in jail. He's going to be extradited too. So he's in deep doo-doo, that boy. And it couldn't have happened to a worse human being.
He's going to get the Diddy treatment.
He is going to get the Diddy treatment. Yeah. Is Diddy still in jail? What's the story with Diddy?
Oh, as far as I know, he's still in jail. I mean, there's
Mike,
been
didn't the Trump White House invite this guy to the White House?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Trump loves scum. Scum loves scum. The Tate brothers are in real trouble, though. Yeah. Sex trafficking, abuse of women.
Yeah.
Rape.
As of July 2026, he is serving a 50-month sentence at FCI Fort Dix in New Jersey.
Okay. 4 years. Fort Dix for a little ditty.
So to speak.
So to speak.
Maybe the Justice Department does have a
I'm not
sense of
saying
humor.
anything.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay. So he's President Trump has authorized the United States Navy to destroy any Iranian fast boats that attempt to put mines in the water or disrupt the flow in the Strait of Hormuz. I'm gonna be the big guy. I don't know what I'm gonna do because we keep on threatening, but we can't open it. And oh, by the way, it was open before we started our stupid war. But we've been so good in our war that we've kept the strait closed that used to be open. And because we keep on fighting this stupid war, it stays closed. But we're going to wipe them out. And we're going to show you that we really know how to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed. Because nothing says ruin of the petrodollar and world economies and starvation better than doing this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, that's a pretty fancy gig for an alcoholic weekend Fox newscaster.
Mm-hmm.
He was the newscaster over the weekend at Fox, and it's a pretty good gig for him.
Yeah, pays better, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Except in the long run. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, somebody's paranoid.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And this is not the red plane either.
No, it won't. What I think he actually said is that he's when he took the two planes over to Turkey for the NATO summit, where all he did was trash NATO. I mean, he spent 2 days trashing NATO, and he took the red plane over. But because he didn't have any faith in the red plane, they brought the Robin Eggs blue plane over too, and he sent the red plane to Germany. He says where it's going to be on static display so that the German station there can see how beautiful the plane is.
What? Because that's what the Germans want to go see, is the plane that the president's not using. Oh, wow.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Not even their president, right?
The plane that Satan was bribed with, that he spent $400 billion trying to improve.
Yeah.
That he flew on once and decided not so much like that plane very much.
Not enough gold.
Maybe not enough gold. I don't know.
Iranians are trying to kill me, man. This stuff's starting to get real. I want the real plane, not the pretty one with the paint.
Not the pretty one. I want the real one. This has a flyby. I think these are the Blue Angels.
Oh,
and you see they're over a beach here. There is a FAA regulation that says you may not fly an aircraft any at an altitude under 500 feet AGL over a population of people. This airplane is about 75 feet AGL, and so it is in violation of FAA regulations, which the Air Force is still required to uphold. So it was quite a stunt that was pulled here. And there's one view of it where you actually see that, not in this one, but in a different post that I saw, where the sand and umbrellas and everything else under the exhaust of that aircraft just flew people everywhere, tumbled them all over. This is an FAA crime. You can show it because the people are cheering, "Oh boy, isn't this wonderful?" No, this is a criminal act, and the Department of Defense have already said we're not prosecuting the pilot. Now, this first flyby, that's legal. But this one here is not.
Yeah.
That is a criminal act. If you and I did that, we would probably have our asses put in jail, but you'd definitely lose your pilot's certificate. You'd never fly again.
If I can't fly my drone over 400 feet, you can't bring your jet below 400 feet. Those are the rules, people.
The FAA is 500 feet over a populated area. AGL is the minimum, in this case, AGL and MSL are the same altitude because they're on the beach, but that is the FAA's minimum requirements, and they violated the minimum requirements. There's a second requirement by the FAA too, which is that you cannot fly faster than 250 knots below 10,000 feet, and they're obviously violating that as well. So there's dual violations of FAA rules that are put in effect to keep people safe.
I've been to multiple air shows, and I've never seen them do that.
No, it's reckless. But we have a reckless president, so that's just the way it is.
One time in my life, I remember hearing the sonic booms. There was the nuclear plant in Callaway County. This was just right after 9/11. Someone lost a little Cessna, a plane in the area, and they scrambled out of Scott. And there were 5 jets doing flybys, looking for running a grid. And they were going so fast you could hear the sonic booms of them turning and burning and coming back around looking for.
And I want to tell you, those 5 jets were a bigger threat to that nuclear facility than was the Cessna. I can tell you that you take a Cessna 172 and you could fly it into the walls of my house here, and you might scratch the paint, and that would be it. And my walls are only a foot thick, and the walls of that nuclear facility are probably 4 foot thick,
at least.
So you would not even scratch the paint. Yeah, this is a lecture on forgiveness, and said if you don't forgive, then you're carrying that around with you all the time, and you're going to be the prisoner of it. So the thing that you should do, if somebody does something really, really bad, you should forgive them. Well, how about lying to you about God, like he's doing? How about changing God's name, like he's doing? How about promoting a text that is wholly contradictory to God, where God said that the author of Christianity was the plague of death, like he's doing? God never said ever once you should forgive those who commit crimes. His view is that if you do that, you'll have complete anarchy and complete immorality, and you will make the victims of criminals more susceptible to being raped and killed and abused and robbed. In fact, God goes on record to say that the worst of those who have harmed my people will not be sent directly to hell. They're going to be made to pay sevenfold recompense. So it doesn't sound like he and God are on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Even in accidents, Yahweh says, send them away out of the community, you know?
Yeah.
So there's no forgiveness.
No, none. In fact, the means of salvation is not to forgive. It's to remove guilt. That's not forgiveness, that the guilt is gone. And so forgiveness is based upon the religion of Christianity and its absurd beliefs. And Jesus never existed, so the religion is nothing but a myth concocted by Paul. But you see, he's got his Bible open. That front part doesn't mean anything other than he uses it to give the back part credibility. But it's the back part that is all he cares about. And all the back part does is contradict the front part. So you've got a book that's at war with itself.
Yeah, he's going to learn a lot about forgiveness in Sheol, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he is. Now this... that Iran is holding the world hostage with its closure of the Straits of Hormuz. Well, if that's the case, then why did you go to war with them that caused them to do this? Because they hadn't done it previously. And you're saying they would hold the world hostage with a nuclear weapon. For 20 years, they had the ability any week to develop a nuclear weapon and didn't. So how did you keep them from having a nuclear weapon when they had the opportunity for 20 straight years and didn't? And now you've given them every incentive to have one, and you gave them the incentive to close the Strait of Hormuz. So why can you be so stupid? You caused the problem. You are the problem. A simple solution: stop bombing them and go away, and the problem goes away. They have no incentive to have a nuclear bomb, and they have no incentive to close the Strait of Hormuz if you just go away. Close your bases in the Middle East, pull your ships out of the region, go flush the toilets, clean the laundry, whatever it is that you need to do, and just go away. And the problem is resolved.
Easy enough.
And we can call it the War House, maybe.
There you go. That's the War House. That one.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can just put a little extra in it, so it could be the whore anyway.
So Iran's state media is saying that any company owned by Elon Musk is considered a military target, including anything associated with Starlink and any data farm. You know, he receives an enormous amount of money from the Arab Sunni fiefdoms. And so they're saying that anything that's associated with Musk is a target. And, you know, Musk he is the enabler of Trump. Without Musk, there is no Trump. He's in jail. And Musk is a parasite of government programs. So he cut a deal with Trump. If he got him elected, that he wouldn't be prosecuted for all the SEC violations. I mean, Elon Musk is the most gross violator of SEC rules I've ever seen. And I was the CEO, founding CEO of multiple public companies. You know what you can and cannot say. He violates the rules associated with public companies every day. And you violate those rules, you go to jail. And the very fact that he has not been prosecuted for violating those rules is the deal that he cut with Trump. It's obvious that they cut a deal, said if you spend $300 million to get us elected, then we'll call off the Department of Justice, and they won't prosecute you on these crimes, all of which you would lose. So he kept Trump out of jail, and Trump keeps him out of jail, and then he's like all of the tech oligarchs, is the beneficiary of billions of dollars worth of government programs.
Mm-hmm.
Swell.
Yeah. It just blew my mind whenever I first found out that Ukrainians were using Starlink to fly their drone. Yeah,
they are. Yeah, he wants to cry, and you've seen that one emotional post that he had about a year ago. Oh, it's so sad what we're doing, and you're crying, you're dying. I just have any emotion. You're going to stop this war. And of course, he has Asperger's, which means he has no real emotions. So it's all staged. It's all a fraud, and all the while, he is the one who is aiding and abetting the proxy to go off and do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's just a complete fraud.
Yeah, that school that was bombed over there with the rockets that killed all the Russian children. I mean, that was the drones that were firing the rockets were using Starlink. The drones that were overseeing those guys do that, where they knew they were firing on students, were using Starlink. It's
in Russia. Yeah, he's a murderous con man, just like his POTUS.
Yeah, Sean, is this the real Sean, or is this the
I think
AI
this is
Sean?
I don't think there is no real Sean. Let's be clear. Sean is speaking out of the tuchus of Donald Trump, and that's a tough job. You got to admit that being the tuchus speaker for the tuchus talker for the Trump, the TTT, is a really stinky job. But nonetheless, he is the tuchus talker for Trump, and he is saying that the great success that Trump has had murdering, talking about that, he's bragging about how that the U.S. found that all of those leaders were going to be there in broad daylight and drop the bombs and kill them all, and what a tremendous success that was, that they killed the leadership of Iran. And all they did was galvanize the Iranians around the regime and assured that there would be no way to negotiate a settlement in this war, and prove that the United States is a murderous country. But such is the life of the tush talker of Trump.
Yeah. Was achieved something truly historic. Truly historic.
Truly historic. Go kill all of those people. Yep. That was an historic. We did murder like it's never been done before.
Yeah.
Tush talker of Trump. Yeah, this was the Jordanian attack. Killed some Americans there, and but it's really throughout the region. And these were rough. I mean, to think of the flight path of these missiles and what they had to endure, and the fact that nobody could knock them down, and then they come right into American bases in Jordan. And of course, what in the world is the United States doing with a base in Jordan? What do you need?
Yeah.
Why does the United States have a base in Kuwait or Saudi Arabia or Qatar or UAE or Bahrain? What is the purpose of any of this? What is the U.S. defending throughout the Muslim Middle East? Excuse me. Why would somebody that signs up to play soldier and be lied to and says you're protecting American freedom be stationed in Jordan or Saudi Arabia or Kuwait or UAE? I mean, what's the point?
All places with a king that needs to be defended against his own people.
Yeah, all places with a religion that wants America destroyed and a king that needs to be defeated. And yet you're saying that they go and are defending America's liberty. What a lie. It's a tragedy what we have done. Let's do one more and we'll call it a day here on the vlog.
This one's fun.
It's just kind of just fun, to see what the sun would look like on various planets. Our thoughts typically on Jupiter is our Mercury, that it's much closer to the sun than it really is. It's like 20 or 30, 40, something like that, solar diameter distances from the sun, actually. And it's a tiny little thing. It's it wouldn't even make a good moon for some other planet. But and it's pretty toasty there. But
Yes,
that's the size of our sun on Mercury. And Venus, it's larger than the Earth. Of course, on the surface temperature of Venus, even metals melt. You know, they've the Russians sent a number of probes to Venus. Many of them landed, but the longest lived probe, I think, was like 90 seconds, and then it just melted. And it melts from both sulfuric acid and from the high temperatures and the high pressures. So Venus is a really, really, really inhospitable place. And yet it's in the Goldilocks zone, as we would, you know, if we saw Mercury around another sun, we'd say, oh boy, that's an Earth-like planet. There's the sun from Earth. And of course, from Mars, it's a tiny little thing. It's smaller than the moon looks at night. You know, it's you know, the temperature variations on Mars are just astronomically high. And so it's a terrible, terrible place. Of course, Jupiter, you could not actually see the sun from the surface of Jupiter because Jupiter really doesn't have a surface, nor does Saturn, nor does Uranus, nor does Neptune. But you know, you can see it just gets further and further away to. You're not going to go and suntan there on Uranus.
Right. You're going to need really good optics to see the transit of the Earth from Mars, right? Where, you know, that the Earth will go across the sun. You know, it's we can only do Venus here.
Yeah, the other day, you know, with the exception of Pluto, which is not a planet anymore, all of the planets are on a plane going around the sun, and our planet is traveling at a very high rate of velocity because orbital rates are needed because if the gravity produced by the mass of the sun in particular and its hold on the Earth, if it wasn't for the fact that the Earth is traveling at a very high velocity, we just immediately collide with the sun and it'd be over. So when we launch a spacecraft and we think that spacecraft is going up, it really isn't. It's traveling with us right around the sun. So it's fairly easy for us to send probes at very high speeds because they start off at very high speeds from the Earth, which then can go to the various planets on our plane. But until quite recently, we had never even seen an image of what the sun looked like on its north or south poles, where the sun, now we know, bears no resemblance to the equator, which we look at. And it's because we actually can't send a probe straight up nor straight down because the delta V necessary to cancel this enormous speed that we have going around on this plane, the sun, is more. It requires more fuel than we can put on a rocket. So it's not just breaking the Earth's gravity now. You need to forestall the Earth's rotational velocity, and it's not possible. We can't equip a rocket with that much fuel. So all we can do is we can go around our little plane, but we can't go. We actually can't go up, and we can't go down in a space shuttle. Isn't that interesting? That all we're ever able to do is just stay right on our little plane in our own little galaxy, not galaxy, in our own little solar system, where we can't leave our solar system. Pretty ironic that how limited we are.
Yeah. Reminds me of those little planes that they used to have in the 50s, that the little remote control planes on a string, you know, you can make it go up and down, and you just turn the circle over and over.
Yeah, over and over and over again. Yeah. If you want them to fly up, the only way they're going to fly up is they're going to crash right down on you. Or if you take them and you want them to fly down, well, you're in real trouble there. But I had one of those. After a while going through that whole thing, you realize that, you know, if I was just taking this thing on put a rock on a string, it would be about the same as what I'm doing right here.
Right.
And one of the, you know, I don't know if you ever had a Cox motor. Those things, you know, that sound of that motor, something you never hear anymore. But so you had a Cox motor. And I also remember that no kid ever had a Cox motor that didn't get bit by that damn thing.
studio.
Oh yeah.
that you
take a
spin that
chunk of your
computer and
finger
you
right
can't
off.
you can't get your finger out of the way fast enough. Every geek has a nick on their finger from trying to run those. You could no more have a Cox motor today. I mean, you'd be sued every which way. But they were fun for their time. It's just that was an entirely different period.
I had my P-51 Mustang.
Oh my!
That was fun.
Oh wow!
But you get dizzy.
Yeah, you do get dizzy. Yeah,
That and yard darts.
yeah,
Some reason they got rid of those. I don't know why.
yeah. Lawn darts. I like those too. One of the things that was really the most fun is when you had a model airplane like that, and they had the remote controls that had the 2 little sticks that you could move it. But the difficulty is that our ability is that it's like flying an airplane. I can fly an airplane because I'm sitting in the airplane. I'm visualizing from the perspective of the airplane. But if you're in front of the airplane, it's coming
back
towards
at
you.
you.
Everything is reversed. So you need to stand. You got to put your back to it to know what's going on. Unless you have a camera in that airplane, which they didn't have back in the day, you can't visualize it. So that to reverse control and keep that thing so that you can fly it more than once. That was tough duty, man. Flying an airplane is much easier than flying a model airplane. I can tell you that for sure because of the.
Yeah, but the new model airplanes, man, they're fancy. You can have the whole VR goggles and just like you're.
Oh yeah, well, that's a different story. Yes, yeah, I would agree. I saw a video the other day that I was going to post because it was just so pretty. But a guy's got VR goggles on, and he has a drone, and they drop it off of the cliff, and it goes all the way down, and so you see it then hover right above the waves, and it follows the crests of the waves and flies towards the sunset and over the beach and over the rocks and next to the cliff. It's just amazing what you can do with these drones and VR goggles. I mean, I would think that you would lose 2 out of 3 drones getting the shot, but oh my God, they are so magnificent. The view, and maybe one day we'll be able to air surf and capture the same view. You know, open your arms out, jump off, and go fly. Long time.
I'm looking forward to flying. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
without a
I
plane.
I just have to change my frequency.
Yeah, just change.
I modify my frequency more as light, but my consciousness and everything else is still within this time space. Absolutely.
Yeah. There's this going to be an occasionally a time for a blend of 3D and 7D, where you're expressing sort of an avatar of yourself in 3D, so that you can do that sort of thing. Because if you're a 7D entity, you can't enter 3D, but you can project an avatar of yourself through energy to be able to do that sort of thing. And I think it'll be grand fun. We'll see how much fun we have. I know that one thing that has struck me in going through Judges and seeing how horrific Israel was, and then realizing that Israel's never really been any better, and that the job really is to deliver Dowd and give him the opportunity for a kingdom with a modicum of people, is that my concern that we're putting in a lot of hours. This is God's asking a lot of us, and most of us, I think, are ready for a vacation. The overall responsibility we're going to have going forward is going to be mitigated by the fewness of the people that will be going forward. So it is going to be a much easier job than what we had anticipated. And the reason it'll be an easier job is we're not going to have to deal with a lot of people, because a lot of people are always trouble. And the fewer the number of people, the better off everybody is. And since that's God's view, that's going to make the whole situation easier, better, and more fun. So we're closing the doors on the Teva. Yep. See you later.
See you later.
All right, my friend. Thank you. Good to have the man in the circle here. Rich is going to be the man in the circle on shows going forward. He's featured on the introduction to the show. We'll be doing the vlog on luminaries later this afternoon, and I think this will be the first time we'll have the new introduction. It's really catchy and fun for our Luminary series. So I hope to join you there later this afternoon as we reign in the evening here on the Virgin Islands with another edition of Luminaries. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Rich. We'll see you later.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.